Hi, my name is Rebecca Skillen, and this is CC Cycle 1, Week 5. All right, so just a little bit of a review of what we did in class this week for my families who are watching this as their kind of recap for the week. We have been starting with geography all year long for the first 5 weeks, and it has been going very, very well. So in this, I also incorporated review of geography this week. I knew that art was going to probably go a little long, and so we did our geography review of the last 4 weeks plus this week, and it went really well. I was actually very impressed with how well they have memorized their geography locations. And they're like, wait a minute, are we reviewing right now? I was like, yep, we are. And then they got it in their heads and they're like, oh, okay, all right, you're not just like being weird on us. And I was like, nope. So this week's geography is the Egyptian Empire. You get a 2-for-1 in here because you learn where Egypt is, and then you learn Upper and Lower Egypt. This is one of those things that is a lot of fun. The Nile River starts in, where's my, down here, and it actually flows up to Egypt, hits Upper Egypt first, then Lower Egypt, then the Nile River Delta flows into the Mediterranean Sea. And so once we learned our Egyptian Empire and that the Nile River Delta flows into the Mediterranean Sea, then that just started all of our review for the last 5 weeks. So we did the Egyptian Empire 2, Walk Like an Egyptian, completely dated myself because none of them knew the song Walk Like an Egyptian. I played them the instrumental Walk Like an Egyptian to kind of get us in our theme. So we did Nile River flows to Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Nile River Delta flows into the Mediterranean Sea. That was it. Nile River flows into Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Nile River Delta flows into the Mediterranean Sea. And we talked about this is Egypt and how it is split with Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. If you flip your map upside down, it makes more sense. So the Nile River flows into Upper Egypt, then goes down to Lower Egypt, and then the Nile River Delta flows into the Mediterranean Sea. So it is not a misprint. It actually is. Lower is on top, upper is on the bottom. Okay, so that was geography. Math, we went over the 10s very quickly. I will be honest, we did not do the 10s 7 times in a row because we had a super long history sentence this week. We talked about it is the ones tables and you add a 0 because it's the 10s. So we chanted it a couple times, and then we did our multiplication 9s. We did those 7 times. We do 5 of 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, and go through the whole thing while somebody's using the agility ladder. I've offered to change that up for them and they are loving it, so I'm sticking with it. It helps us get through the math facts super quick, so I'm not gonna change something if it's working right now. So it also, we do geography sitting at the table, and then we get up and move to where my board is in the room and get the agility ladder out. They get their wiggles out, and the rest of review seems to go really well. So if that's what's working for them, I'm happy with that. So we do 5 math facts, and then we skip count for number 6 and 7 as our group. Moved over to prepositions. So we start, the one before this is beside, and they're in a squat. So we stayed in our squat, and we went between, then we stood up, beyond, but, make sure I'm doing them right, but by, like it's beside you, it's by you, but by concerning. It concerns you, it hurts your heart, bless your heart, concerning. Okay, that is geography, math, and English. And then why am I wearing a toga? Because for week 4, we did a toga party. And that was our history. Tell me about the Romans. The Roman Republic became the Roman Empire when Augustus was crowned emperor in 27 BC, and the rest of the history sentence. I did not do any motions to this. It is a long, long song. And it really sounds like they're doing an air guitar. So we danced around in our togas and air guitared the song. And they had fun. I think they were looking at me because they thought I was nuts because I was having a blast. My daughter, this is her favorite one so far. So she was loving the dance. Okay, science. What are some major groups of invertebrates? So this one, what are some major groups of invertebrates? Sponges, like you're cleaning your window, which I told them, this isn't really what we're talking about, but it helps me remember, so maybe it'll help you. So sponges, stinging cell animals, flatworms, roundworms, and then segmented worms. And one of the kids says, why are you doing that in segments? It's because it's a type of worm. Look it up this week. Segmented worms. They look like they have segments. Mollusks, they have the shell on their back, so we said mollusks. Sea stars, I had them do like jump out like they were a star. And then arthropods, because our hard shell is on the outside. Okay, so sponges, stinging cell animals, flatworms, roundworms, segmented worms, mollusks, sea stars, arthropods. There's a little bit of a beat to it. So sponges, stinging cell animals, sponges, stinging cell animals, flatworms, roundworms, segmented worms, mollusks, sea stars, arthropods. These are the major groups of invertebrates. That gets your whole answering with a sentence. All right, timeline. Judah falls to Babylon. Temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia. Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, Golden Age of Greece. Peloponnesian Wars, you're using your G for Greece. Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. Okay. And I'll link those hand motions for you if you're interested. I will say this was a lot of fun. My kids and I went to Esther at Sight and Sound this last week, and they knew all about Persia. So it was really cool to see that kind of, in essence, come to life. Latin. So this is our second declension. So like I said, just practice with your CD. But us, E like a tree, E, O, like So us, like I've heard it's like Puss in Boots. Us, E, O, O. And then for plural, E like tree, E, orum. So it's the O instead of the arm, we're going O, orum, making a drum sound, orum. Ease, like geese, ease, and we're not touching moss like os, like the last declension. It's os, like ghost. So ease, os, ease. So plural is E, orum, ease, os, ease. You're flapping your wings like a geese. So that was new grammar. We sailed right through that and went into science. Science was oily feathers and tangled this week. I think because it was a little bit more of a concrete concept of really watching it happen, or maybe I felt more comfortable with the material this week. We had a really great conversation about the oily feathers and the tangled experiment. It was funny when we were doing the oily feathers as we were working through the experiment. Towards the end, they're like, well, where are the feathers? And it was a neat conversation that we had. Fine arts, I will link the web page of what I used as my guide for perception and perspective. And this is the start of our final project. So we did the perspective work on week 5, and we're going to finish it for week 6 as a final project. Incorporating it with Egypt, I talked about how this part right here is going to be painted blue, like you're going underneath water. So if you want to research what animals, fish and plants and all of that might be in the Nile River, and you want to draw those next week, you go right ahead. The other concept, and I have some printed off hand drawing or simple drawings of ocean animals. So if you want to draw those in your ocean here, I'll have that available for you too. But this was our work on perspective, and they had a lot of fun with it. I will say, if you are doing this project as a tutor, this is watercolor paper, because we're gonna paint with watercolors. That's my plan. We'll see how that works for week 6. But on the watercolor paper, I drew this X on all of them, and then I penciled in the pre-measured lines here. So I just put a pencil dot here, a pencil dot here, pencil dot here, pencil dot here. And then for the squares down here, this is a 12-inch space here, so every 2 inches I did a dot with pencil, so that they just connected the dots here to make these column lines. They did freehand the curve lines, and we talked about how this went over the page. We didn't draw on the table at that point. And here was the 1-point perspective. So we started at the middle, and then we went to each of those 2-inch dots on the paper, and then we alternated. And some of mine, I think I actually did okay on the checkered floor. Some of them did different types of patterns with their checkered floor, and it turned out really cool. So I have, like I said, 7 and 9-year-olds. So the time allotted to do all the straight lines and then color in all the squares took a full 30 minutes and then some. They were still seated at the table, and so that worked perfectly into an impromptu review. Just a side note on fine arts, I went through the night before, found a couple pages of all different types of art that incorporated some perspective into them. And so they were able to see here, let's see if I can find the one that I actually really like. And that's Edvard Munch. You know, you've got people over here that are a little smaller. You've got him, you've got some straight lines. You kind of feel like you're moving forward. And this was in all types of art that I could find some perspective, or at least something that we could talk about a little bit. This is the one that I did show them in class. So you have the perspective of the train, looks like it's moving across the page with the lines, the way that they're drawn. So this book, actually, I was kind of hesitant to buy the 2nd edition when it came out, because I was like, I already have the 1st edition. Ugh. But I've actually used this in the drawing components of class a lot more than I did the first edition. And of course I still use the drawing book. I forget who it's by, but for the exercises to prepare for drawing, as well as your elements of shape. So that's a little bit about that. Review. So they were coloring or drawing in with their Sharpie. I did make sure that I had 7 Sharpies for class. I had actually 9 or 10 of them. So that is one thing. If you're doing this project, make sure you have plenty of Sharpies for everybody. So with review, they were already sitting and they were like, are we gonna do Would You Rather again? And I was like, no, we're not gonna do Would You Rather again. And I was like, okay, what can I do where they're seated, still finishing up their project, and we can keep moving? So I did alien face. It's my first time to ever do alien face. It's always been in my back pocket, and it worked out really great. So I did a big, huge circle, and then on the side I wrote 1 through 6, and excuse me, sweetheart, thanks. My little cat decided to come say hi. On the side of the whiteboard, I put 1 eye, 2 nose, 3 ear, 4 hair, 5 mouth, and 6 arm. So they answered a question, they rolled a dice, because I always have dice in my tutor bag, rolled a dice, and after they answered their question, whatever their dice roll was, whether it was an ear, 3 would be ear, 6 would be arm, they got to draw whatever they rolled. We rolled a lot of 6s in class. This alien had tons of arms, had hair coming out of an ear, and I think hair coming out of a mouth. So it was a lot of fun, but I hope that helps you prepare for week 5. We do not have class this coming week. This is our off week. So we will be coming back for week 6, the second week of October. And then we get ready for Tin Whistle. So make sure if you have not ordered your Tin Whistle that you are planning to do that soon, so you have it for week 7. And I hope you have a great day.